Take two. First take didn't work. So this is the first actual chapter in the Cannibal Killers book that I'm reading for my friend Chelsea. It's obviously been a long time since the last video, so at least I hadn't actually posted it up until just recently, so nobody actually had to wait any longer than they might have otherwise. Anyhow, so the legend of Athene the Dread. In the British Isles, the earliest detailed account of an individual who regularly ate human flesh occurred in the 3rd century AD. The dubious distinction of being the first British cannibal belongs to not a man, but a remarkable female named Athene the Dread, who was born in Wales sometime during the latter part of that century. She was, in fact, of Irish extraction, her name being derived from that of, oh god, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, a mythological Celtic hero who was cruelly drowned in her last month of pregnancy by her jealous sister, Clothra, related to Mothra, apparently. I just watched the new Godzilla movie. It wasn't that great. Athene's own life was to be similarly drenched in blood. Wales in the late 3rd century was a bleak and inhospitable country with a few communities scattered on the hills in the dark valleys. And in the dark valleys. Along the coast were also to be found various settlements, the majority belonging to the native Welshmen, but one distinctive and especially well fortified community had been built by settlers from across the Irish Sea. It stood on the shore of Pembroke, facing across the turbulent sea towards the modern Waterford. The place was a stronghold of the Desi tribe, which, according to a narrative written in the 8th century, from which the facts of this story have been drawn, was at this time led by a ferocious and deeply superstitious warrior named Crimthand, who would later perish at the hands of a supernatural woman on the Feast of Samhain. The Desi were an Irish clan who had lived for centuries in the province of Meath or Meath, and they featured in the story the expulsion of the Desi, which has been stylistically dated back to the 3rd century. According to this legend, uh, Selech, a son of Cormac Mac Art, the High King of Ireland, had raped a niece of a Desi chieftain while raiding through their territory. The chief had then tracked Kelech to Tara, and when the boy denied his act, killed him in a fit of rage. In retribution, Cormac Mac Art expelled the Desi from his lands. Some of them fled to Munster, and the rest sailed across the Irish Sea, and after a voyage of many adventures, settled in South Wales. In exile, each succeeding generation of Desi dreamed of the day when they might return to their homeland. Crimthand, the latest of the Desi rulers, shared this dream too, though he and his people now lived well enough from plundering the surrounding districts. Indeed, it has been suggested that the taste for human flesh which his daughter was to develop may first have surfaced in the father himself, for he is said to have occasionally drunk the blood of his enemies slain in battle in order to imbibe some of their strength. At the time of the event we are interested in, Crimthand was enjoying a lull in his attacks against the native population and had just taken a second wife, also unpronounceable. This woman was, in fact, the sister of his first wife, who had died in mysterious circumstances. Dun, dun, dun. The first child born to Crimthand and unpronounceable was a girl whom they named Athene. On the night she was born, a famous druid, Bree, the son of Bear Child, um, happened to be in the stronghold and immediately pronounced on the baby's future, according to the ancient narrative. His words were to have a profound effect on the new father. "The maiden that has been born tonight, all the men of Ireland shall know her," said Bree, "and on account of this maiden her mother's kindred will seize the land on which they shall dwell." Crimthand at once saw the implications of the druid's words in regard to the Desi dream, and gave orders that his daughter was to be brought up to be as strong and brave as any man in the tribe. No effort was to be spared in order that she should fulfill her destiny and lead the tribe back to Ireland to reoccupy their land in Meath. According to the words of the legend, when the Desi heard the story from the Druid that it was through the power of the maiden that they would obtain their inheritance, they reared her on the flesh of little boys that she might grow quickly. Oh my. Crimthond ordered that each family of the tribe who had more than two sons was to sacrifice the youngest so that his daughter could eat the boy's tender flesh. No one else was to share this grisly meal, however. The records do not make it clear whether the flesh was cooked or eaten raw, but Athene nonetheless flourished on her diet, which was supplemented with a drink made by mixing mead and blood. She was, it is said, unable to differentiate between the meat she ate and the animals slaughtered and cooked for the rest of the Desi. It is doubtful whether the girl tasted any vegetables at all during her childhood. While off on reading trips into what is now Carmarthen, Crimthend and his men often deliberately seized boy children from isolated settlements and returned them still alive to the coast as further supplies for his voracious daughter. By her teens, Athene had the physique of a man and had been trained by her father to wrestle and handle all manner of weapons. She was, not surprisingly, regarded with awe by all the members of the tribe and with terror by small male children. Her name became Athene the Dread, says the narrative, for the little boys dreaded her. The cannibal warrior queen lived until she was in her early 20s, and although the evidence suggests that she led at least two expeditions to Ireland in order to fulfill her destiny, on each occasion the raiders were driven back and had to retreat to Wales once more. Mystery about her later life surrounds her death. Mystery about her later life surrounds the death of Athene the Dread. One record states she was fatally wounded during a foray to Ireland and died on the return journey. Another, probably apocryphal, says that she actually choked to death on a tiny bone in the dismembered arm of an infant on which she was feasting. The end.